Thank you for making me a mom. A new life, still small, had taken up residence in my womb. I believed everyone would be overjoyed. Yet, my husband was engrossed in his acts of betrayal against me. Now, feeling happy 3 years later, I can talk about those times. I am Nell Burks. Back then, I was pregnant. Even past 5 months of pregnancy, the morning sickness continued and I often had to take time off from work. My husband is Greg. We met at a colleague's wedding after party. He, a year older than me, worked at the same company. The first time I heard his singing, I was smitten. Not love at first sight, but love at first listen. I approached him and our relationship began. 2 years later, when I was 27, we married.
Being an only child might be lonely, so we should have at least 2 kids, right?
Yeah, maybe 1 girl and 2 boys?
As long as they're healthy, the order doesn't matter.
Greg, an oldie child, and I with a half-brother. We wanted to give our child siblings. We were excited about having kids right after getting married. Looking back, that might have been our happiest time. But once married, we realized it wasn't all about chasing dreams. We had to plan for the future realistically. We decided not to have children for 3 years, focusing on saving money and enjoying life as a couple. Then, 2 years into our marriage, we relished our time together, indulging in shared hobbies like karaoke and exploring gourmet restaurants during weekends. Recently, Greg started playing golf on weekends, invited by his manager, leading us to spend weekends separately. I spent time doing things I liked. Being alone wasn't too bad. I had no significant complaints about our marriage, but there was something I regretted. That was our promise to not have children for 3 years. I heard from friends who had children, and I even had chances to hold their babies. Gradually, the desire to hold my own child grew stronger. Unable to wait any longer, I brought it up with Greg. Hey, don't you think it's time we had a child? Children are a blessing from God, so maybe we don't need to stick to our plans so rigidly. But Greg responded,
I'm not ready yet. We still have a year left of our 3-year promise. There's so much I still want to do. Having a child now would be inconvenient.
I was stunned. I had expected him to agree readily, but his unexpected reaction left me disappointed. This was something I couldn't do alone. Resigned to waiting, I decided to stick to our plan for another year. However, 6 months later, I unexpectedly discovered I was pregnant. I had been feeling nauseous for about a week and thought I had caught a cold. Then it dawned on me that my period was late. Could it be? The thought crossed my mind, but I dismissed it, confident in our birth control measures. Still, I decided to visit the gynecologist for peace of mind. After the examination, the doctor said,
You're pregnant,
without a smile. I had naively expected a cheerful congratulation, you're pregnant, like in the dramas, but his manner of tone was anticlimactic. As time passed, reality set in and I began to talk to my belly. Thank you for making me a mom. But when did it happen? I pondered and realized the exact date it must have occurred. Though earlier than I planned, I was sure Greg would be happy to know we were having a child. I waited for Greg's return, trying to contain my excitement.
Did something good happen?
Greg asked, noticing my unusual expression. Yes, actually, I'm pregnant.
Pregnant? Who? Wait, you mean?
That's right.
That's strange. Are you sure it's mine?
Excuse me? At Greg's words, it felt as if time had stopped for a moment. Of course it is. You might not remember because you were drunk. Greg thought for a moment and then seemed to recall.
Really? But it's too soon for kids. I'm sorry, but can we not go through with this?
I couldn't believe these were Greg's words. What? No way, this is our child. A blessing. You can't just say that. I'm definitely having this baby.
Seems like there is no convincing you. Go ahead and have it if you want. From heaven to hell.
Greg's indifferent words felt like a fall. His attitude changed dramatically afterwards.
Isn't your morning sickness a bit exaggerated?
Greg, insensitive to my struggles with morning sickness since the early stages of pregnancy, threw harsh words at me. I didn't expect him to fully understand the hardship of morning sickness, but at least a few kind words wouldn't be too much to ask for.
I'll eat out, so don't bother with dinner, or the smell bothers me. I'll sleep in the next room.
He would say, increasingly avoiding me and my frequent nausea. Greg's occasional weekend golf had become a weekly routine, and today, he left early again, invited by his manager. He's forgotten again. I noticed Greg had left his bag behind and thought I might still catch him, so I called his mobile phone. Huh? The sound of a mobile phone vibrating came from inside the bathroom. Looking over, I saw Greg's mobile phone ringing on top of the paper holder. Forgetting your mobile phone too? You're really hopeless. I picked up the phone. Excuse me? I saw the caller ID on the screen. An old hag. An old hag? Who's that? Just then, the sound of the entrance door opening echoed. Greg had come back to retrieve his forgotten item. In a rush, I hit the stop button on my phone and hurriedly put Greg's phone back in its place.
What are you doing?
His eyes narrowed as he snatched his mobile phone. There is no need to yell. I was just about to call you about your forgotten phone.
I'm in a hurry, so...
Without saying anything more, Greg grabbed his bag and phone and left. The words, an old hag, remained vividly etched in my mind. Dizziness overcame me and I slumped to the floor. My heart was pounding. I could hear its beats. I am not so oblivious. I had a vague sense that something was off with Greg's behavior. Yet somewhere in my heart I hoped I was mistaken, but my hopes were shattered. We had planned to go to Greg's parents' house for Christmas, but I couldn't because of severe morning sickness. Say hi to Kaylin and the others for me. As I saw him off at the entrance, Greg pointed at me laughing.
Oh, what's with that outfit? You look like an old woman. It's embarrassing.
How cruel. Such words shouldn't be said even in jest. I could no longer feel a shred of affection. How are you feeling? Is the morning sickness still going on? The day after Greg left, I received a call from my mother-in-law, Kaylin, who expressed her concern. Yes, I'm fine. Sorry, I couldn't come. Don't worry about it, but it's lonely this year since both of you couldn't make it. Both of us? Greg was supposed to have gone to his parents' home. Before I could respond, Kaylin continued, well, it can't be helped. His manager's father passed away and he's always been good to us. That was Greg's excuse for not going home, apparently. What? I hadn't heard such a story. Nell, can you hear me? Yes. Something wrong? Don't keep worries to yourself. It's not good for the baby. Could Greg be cheating? I couldn't possibly say such a thing outright. I'm fine, just feeling a bit unstable. I guess it's because of the pregnancy. After ending the call with Kaylin, I immediately called Greg. Hello, this is Greg's mobile phone. Who's speaking? Oh, sorry, I dialed the wrong number. I quickly hung up, a bit startled. Was it a mistake? I checked the number I had for Greg. Greg. It was correct, and the woman on the phone had mentioned Greg's name twice. My call would be in Greg's call history. He should have called back, but he didn't. Greg's actions were increasingly suspicious. Looking back, there were other strange occurrences. Normally, we would visit his family about 3 times a year, but at Thanksgiving, I went alone. Greg had said he was helping with his manager's mother's funeral service and couldn't go, and now his father? Both parents passing away within 6 months, coinciding with our family visits? Too much of a coincidence. I immediately checked with a colleague from Greg's department. There's no such thing, they said. The frequent golf invitation from his manager had started before I knew I was pregnant. Greg was definitely hiding something, no doubt about it. Then Kaylin called again. Nell, are you really okay? Worried about my downhearted state, she had called again. I explained everything that had happened. I'm so sorry. Kaylin apologizing as if her son's misconduct was her responsibility. "You're my precious daughter too. Remember when I was hospitalized before your wedding? You were the first to rush to my side. That's when I knew I could trust you with our future. You would never betray us. I won't forgive anyone who makes my precious daughter cry, even if it's my own son. You're pregnant, don't think strange thoughts. It's not good for the baby." Finally, Kaylin said, "Just make sure you do what you need to do," before hanging up. 2 days later, Greg returned as if nothing had happened.
"I'm home. The train was crowded. Terrible."
Pretending as if he had just come from his parents' house. In the following month, I got my affairs in order. I submitted my resignation at work. The company was preparing for my maternity leave and smoothly accepted my resignation. It was a relief that I would still receive maternity allowance even though I was resigning half a year before giving birth. Becoming unemployed was a bit daunting when thinking about the future. Of course, I kept my resignation a secret from Greg. "I've decided to take a week off starting tomorrow," I told Greg.
"You don't have to bother telling me that,"
he replied curtly. Although Greg seemed to have lost all interest in me, that actually worked in my favor. The next day, Greg probably left work right on time and came home. He entered the house breathless.
"What's going on?" Suddenly.
Greg was taken aback, seeing my parents-in-law relaxing on the living room sofa. Indeed, I had informed Greg about the parents-in-law visit via WhatsApp just an hour before his workday ended. "Oh, I told Nell in advance." Sorry, I completely forgot to tell Greg." Greg glared at me sideways. "Is it inconvenient that we came without notice? Neither of you came home for Christmas. My husband had time off, so we thought we would visit as tourists." Kaylin was a great actress. Greg certainly hadn't expected his parents to show up. He was in deep trouble now with his Christmas lie about to be exposed. "Greg, I just heard from Kaylin about the manager's father passing away and his mother passed away at Thanksgiving? Poor manager."
Yeah, that's right."
Greg's face was covered in sweat, not just from the surprise of his timely return home, but also from the fear of being exposed.
Sorry, the funeral service was sudden. I kept quiet because I thought it would be suspicious."
"Suspicious? Who would suspect and what exactly?" I imagine the same question mark appeared in the minds of the three of us, excluding Greg. Realizing this, Greg quickly changed the subject.
"Mom, Dad, have you had dinner yet? Let's go out and then hit a singing bar. It's been a while."
Karaoke was not just mine and Greg's hobby, but also a favorite pastime for my parents-in-law. A family outing to a singing bar was a rare event. We quickly finished dinner and went to the singing bar. Greg, having seemingly forgotten the inconvenient truth from earlier, proudly showcased his singing. He probably thought he was buttering up his parents, but he was actually digging his own grave, completely oblivious to it. "Since all four of us are here, let's do a duet." Kaylin took this opportunity to execute her plan. "That sounds great. Let's start with David. And Kaylin, show us how it's done." Thanks to Kaylin's quick thinking, an unexpected opportunity came my way. Next up, Greg and Nil. "Nil, why don't you pick the song?" "Okay then." I dragged a reluctant Greg to the stage. The song title displayed on the screen was a recently popular one about infidelity. "What?" I clearly saw Greg's eyes widen in shock. "Oh, a nostalgic choice." Kaylin chimed in. Greg, not even hot, was sweating profusely. As I linked arms with him, Kaylin said directly, "Greg, sing more seriously. Are you sweating because you're guilty of something?" Speaking of which, when David and I were newly married, I suspected him of infidelity.
"Yes, I remember. It was a complete misunderstanding by Kaylin. It taught me never to anger my wife. Greg, you better be careful."
Looking closely at Greg, his sweat-drenched face had turned pale.
I'm fine. Just had a bit too much to drink."
"Huh? Drank too much?" Greg usually only drinks cola at karaoke, not alcohol. Even today, he only had a sip of beer at first. "Oh, are you okay, Greg?" Don't overdo it. We are going back to our hotel, so let's call it a night. After saying goodbye to my parents-in-law who returned to their nearby book hotel, Greg and I went back to our condominium. The next morning, leaving Greg at home saying he wasn't feeling well, I went sightseeing with my parents-in-law. Even at night, Greg didn't come out of his room. So I called out, "Hey, are you okay?" Kaylin said they are leaving tomorrow. Seems the unfamiliar hotel is tiring them out. They prefer their own home.
Really? It's a shame I couldn't spend more time with them since they came all this way.
Greg emerged from his room seemingly relieved that his parents were leaving. Also, I have decided to go back with them. Greg appeared completely revived, knowing that the house would be empty except for him a while.
That's good for Mom and Dad. You should relax too, Nell. I'll take you to the station tomorrow.
The next morning, I said goodbye to Greg at the station and left with my parents-in-law. And that night,
Wow.
Greg was shocked, as if he had seen a ghost. He almost collapsed at the sight of me and Kaylin standing at the entrance. Dropping his beer in surprise, it seemed he was literally taken aback. While feeling this, I just looked at Greg coldly without saying a word. Only David, my father-in-law, had actually gone home. Kaylin and I had returned to the condominium after some time. "Oh, you've spilled your beer? No need to be surprised. We are not ghosts, you know."
But Mom, you guys were supposed to go home. Huh?
"Yes, David went back alone. I'm staying here tonight since I'm alone, but who might be visiting? There's a woman's coat hanging there."
That, a colleague from work. Others were here until a moment ago. They left and she's the only one now.
The woman must have hidden when we unexpectedly arrived. Peeking into the room, a young woman timidly appeared from the balcony. Good evening. Oh, sorry, just needed some fresh air. Mr. Greg, I'll be leaving soon." After saying that, she picked up her bag and left. I recognize that woman. Isn't she from Greg's department? Her voice sounded like the one on the phone.
You could have at least informed us. She left in such a shock.
Greg finally stood up and grabbed a new beer from the fridge to drink. You know, it's not good for a married man to be alone with a young woman when his wife is away. Kaylin remarked sarcastically, making Greg spit out his beer. I was thinking of saying hello to your always helpful manager before leaving.
No need to bother going all the way to the manager. It will be a laughing stock for an older woman to show up at the company.
Greg tried desperately to stop Kaylin's action, really, but since you always receive so much help from your manager, I'll just give them a call to express my gratitude. Saying that, Kaylin picked up Greg's mobile phone from the table.
Mom, stop it.
Greg frantically tried to retrieve his phone, but Kaylin was determined. Just lend it to me. It was the first time I saw the usually calm Kaylin raise her voice. Kaylin looked straight into Greg's eyes. Greg, is it really so embarrassing for me to thank your manager?
It's not that, but...
Unable to meet Kaylin's eyes, Greg responded in a small voice. Then it's fine, Greg, you make the call. Greg seemed to realize he couldn't anger his mother any further. Suddenly, he bowed his head towards Kaylin.
Mom, sorry, I meant to tell you the truth. The girl from earlier, it's not just a fling. Actually, she's pregnant. So I'm going to marry her and take responsibility.
What? I was utterly stunned by Greg's shocking confession. Greg, do you realize what you're saying? There's also your child in Nell's womb. How will you take responsibility for that?
It's Nell's fault. She decided to have the baby despite my opposition, and I can't even be sure if the baby's really mine. I mean, it happened just once unexpectedly. How can I trust that?
Kaylin? Kaylin snatched the beer from Greg's hand and threw it in his face.
What are you doing?
Does this not wake you up? I was thinking I wouldn't disown you if you sincerely apologized to Nell. And what about that girl just now? If she intended to marry you, why did she run away like that? Greg was left speechless, effectively admitting to their fear. There's no more room for leniency. If you say Nell's child isn't yours, then you are no longer my child either. From today, our ties as parent and child are severed. You understand, right? And you're forbidden from visiting our home or meeting the baby. I'll make sure you pay for hurting my daughter Nell. Tell your new wife too.
Mom?
Greg couldn't say anything more in the face of Kaylin's fury. Of course, even if she said they were cutting ties, it doesn't sever the legal family registration bond. Yet, that was the extent of Kaylin's feelings. This husband, he hurt not only me, his wife, but also his own mother. You can leave Kaylin and the others to me. Take care of your new wife and the child in her womb. Now, please sign these divorce papers and leave the keys to the condominium. I placed the divorce papers and keys on the table. Let's go, Kaylin. I had already had my belongings picked up by movers. I never returned to the condominium. The next day, I finished my resignation at the company and went home with Kaylin. A few days after returning home, I received a WhatsApp message from Greg. The main points were, he filed the divorce papers, he would give me all the money we had saved together, asking me not to hire a lawyer. No words of regret, no apology, just thinking about his own skin. I had no more lingering feelings. A few days after receiving WhatsApp from Greg, the father of his affair partner went out of his way to visit our family soon.
I am terribly sorry for the trouble my daughter has caused.
He didn't want the matter to become public and offered settlement money. It turned out she wasn't even pregnant. Greg separated from her and resigned from his job. From what I heard from a colleague, that woman left the company and soon got engaged to another man. Rumors suggested that her parents hastily arranged a match to vanish her relationship with Greg like mist, pushing her into a new engagement. Greg divorced his pregnant wife. After that, a female employee from Greg's department resigned. These are the only two facts officially recorded at the company. Anything about Greg's relationship with that woman or their subsequent lives remain mere whispers and rumors. Nevertheless, labeled as the lowest man who cheated on his pregnant wife, Greg managed to turn all the female employees at his company against him. Unable to bear the scandal, Greg left the company 6 months later. The marital bond was severed, but the connection between me and his parents continued. To me, parents-in-law were technically adopted parents. Before our marriage, Greg had said,
Eventually, Dad and Mom will be under Nell's care, so I want Nell to have a share of the inheritance.
He had asked his parents to adopt me. I had lost my parents early and was raised by my grandparents. Knowing my family circumstances, parents-in-law had adopted me as their daughter. It's safer for you to give birth here. Kaylin made various arrangements so I could deliver near my childhood home. Thanks to her efforts, I safely gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Hoping he would grow up humble and kind, my adopted parents named him Charles. Mom! My 3-year-old son, playing with Kaylin in the yard, ran up to me. I'm home! I picked up my son, gazing at the sunset. Everyone perceives happiness in their own way. I want to show my son various beautiful scenes in life.
Nell, stay strong.
I felt as if my father and mother, who had passed away early, were smiling at me from the heavens. I'm sorry for serving you something that didn't taste good. I promise I won't make it again.
Oh?
No matter what I made, he always criticized it. I reached my breaking point. I decided to divorce and leave the house. Then, something unexpected happened with my husband and our eldest son. When a woman gets married, she's often not called by her first name anymore. My name is Emma, but at work and in the neighborhood, I'm known as Mrs. Taylor. Even at the daycare and school, they call me that. I would be okay if my husband called me by my first name, but he only refers to me as
Hey or you.
From the beginning of our marriage and even now at 50, I have always called him Gordon. But it seems he doesn't get the hint. Gordon is 3 years older than me, making him 53. He works for a transportation company and used to deliver goods to the deli where I work. The friendly Gordon started chatting with me, a store clerk, and we became close. Our meeting was quite romantic, but married life wasn't like a fairy tale. Gordon, using work as an excuse, never helped with household chores. Even though I'm a full-time worker at the deli, it's not like I'm a stay-at-home mom. We had our eldest son Mark, but Gordon hardly ever helped raise him. Men get praised just for playing catch with their kids, but women work from dawn till dusk and still aren't exempt from household duties, nor do they get any praise. Isn't society's expectation that mothers should naturally take care of their children oppressive to women? Mark was a good kid until high school, but after joining the workforce, he became sarcastic, especially in the last 2 years since he joined his current company. He's been coming home late and doesn't listen to me at all. But for some reason, he and Gordon get along really well. Sometimes they even mock me together. Mark, what kind of job are you doing right now? I work for an IT company. There are many types of IT companies, right?
Why bother explaining? You wouldn't get it anyway.
With a smirk, he seemed annoyed to talk with me. Maybe at 25, Mark doesn't feel like explaining his job in detail to his mom. Sometimes I get so mad at him it scares me. Am I lacking maternal instincts? There's a term called unconditional love. When Mark was a baby, I felt that intense love for him. Looking at his cute sleeping face, I felt I could do anything for him, but now, seeing the sarcastic man Mark has become, my unconditional love wavers. I find myself expecting something in return for the love I give. Both from Gordon and Mark. 26 years of marriage. Every day is filled with sighs, and I can't say I have been happy. About 2 years ago, Gordon and Mark started teaming up to criticize my cooking. I don't think my cooking skills suddenly dropped, and I don't remember cutting corners. I always consider nutritional balance, try to save every penny at the supermarket, and take into account Gordon and Mark's favorite dishes. Planning daily meals is hard enough, but having my hard work criticized is honestly disheartening. Tonight, I made Gordon's favorite Chinese stir-fry. I thought he would be pleased, but Gordon yelled, "What is this?" Is it not good?
It's too salty.
You said it was too bland yesterday. Then Gordon pointed at me accusingly.
Can't you find a middle ground? It's always one extreme or the other with you.
Yet, he continued to eat voraciously, exaggeratingly leaning back and shouting,
"So salty."
Mark just ate silently. How about you, Mark?
I often get taken to fancy restaurants in Akasaka and Ginza by my boss. So I have become a gourmet. Everything tastes good to me now.
I worry for the woman who might marry such a sarcastic man, even if he is my own son. While still complaining about the saltiness, Gordon finished his meal and in the end, so did Mark. Feeling stressed, I decided to grab a meal with my best friend Juliet on my day off. Juliet, like me, is 50. She went through a divorce 2 years ago. Her husband never lifted a finger around the house but had the nerve to point out a dirty window and some dust. Juliet lost it. She told me she whacked him on the head with a hanger. Talk about gutsy. When I brought up Gordon and Mark, Juliet got mad as if it was about her. Why don't you just tell him to cook for himself and hit him with a frying pan? I can't say that if I did, he would just get stubborn and insist on cooking. He would probably realize how hard cooking is if he tried it himself. I wouldn't dare eat anything Gordon cooked. Juliet laughed heartily, but for me, it's a real concern. Ever since I became single, I have been quite popular at work. It's your life, you know. You aren't living just for your husband or kids. You're only 50, Emma. I'm already 50. Don't give up because of age. 50 is when life truly begins. I get asked out for dinner by male colleagues quite often. It's probably because I'm single now. If the guy is single too, there's no issue. Juliet looked radiant. Her confidence and positivity were blinding. Is the ideal mother and wife someone who puts her kids first? Husband second and herself last, is that right? Whether it's right or not, society's norms aren't always correct. Before being a mother or a wife, you are an individual. Life's more fun when you live for yourself. I was taken aback. You're intense, Juliet. Don't call me intense, I'm just normal. Dinner time is always tense for me. In most households, dinner time is a moment of family bonding and happiness. Tonight, I made Mark's favorite, curry rice. But after one bite, Gordon shouted, "What the heck is this? Is it bad?"
It's sweet, way too sweet. Who makes sweet curry?
Trying to hold back my disappointment, I asked Mark, "Is it too sweet?"
I prefer spicy or medium spicy, but more importantly, I know this amazing curry place. I mean, it's not fair to compare a home cook to a Michelin-starred chef.
I don't cook just to hear Gordon's harsh words and Mark's sarcastic comments. Without considering my feelings, Gordon sighed.
Oh, my mom's curry rice was the best, just like home.
I wanted to tell him to have his mother cook for him every day, but I was afraid of escalating the argument, so I held back. At work, while I was assisting a customer, my manager, Mr. Smith, complimented me.
Mrs. Taylor, your customer service is always so cheerful and genuine. It's great.
Really? Thank you so much. Words have power. Even a single compliment can lift your spirits.
Customer service is crucial. If the staff is pleasant, customers will want to return.
Even though each deli claims to have its unique offerings, they all seem to sell similar items. Naturally, if the prices are the same, people would prefer the store with better customer service. Mr. Smith is 54 and single. He doesn't seem to be divorced, nor does he appear to be against marriage. Standing tall at 6 feet, he's a dandy gentleman and quite the charmer, especially among the younger female staff. Being single in your 50s doesn't mean you're not attractive. Maybe his standards are sky high, or perhaps he had a passionate love affair when he was younger and can't forget it. His mysterious aura probably fuels rumors, making him even more intriguing to the ladies. Mr. Smith treats me, a 50-year-old, with the same kindness he shows to the women in their 20s. Such a gentleman. I can't help but wonder how Gordon and Mark behave at work. If Mark makes snide remarks to his colleagues like he does at home, he would definitely be disliked. I worry about Gordon, especially when it comes to bullying subordinates or harassing female colleagues. I just hope he never gets arrested. During the dreaded dinner time, Gordon and Mark were watching TV. It was a show where family restaurant staff showcased their best dishes judged by renowned chefs. As I casually watched, Gordon chimed in.
Don't you ever think of going on this show? Why? Would you fail everyone?
Mark joined in, laughing at his father's joke.
They would probably say, "Are you trying to kill me with this?" and throw a rejection card at you.
That's just too much. So, should we order pizza tonight?
Pizza? I'm in the mood for a hamburger steak.
Takeout from the family restaurant? Seeing my rare defiance, Gordon's expression changed.
What's with the attitude? Even I have my limits, you know?
Mark laughed along with his father.
I'll sing "I Want You Back" in full chorus.
I wasn't amused.
What's "I Want You Back"? Don't you know anything?
They can have their fun. I felt left out and lonely. Juliet's face came to mind, and the word divorce crossed my thoughts. It was in the evening after work. Mr. Smith called me over.
Emma?
Huh?
Sorry, Mrs. Taylor.
I smiled at him. If you want to call me that, it's fine.
Oh, really?
A forgotten thrill. For a moment, a love song played in the background of my mind, but I quickly dismissed it. Life isn't that sweet. It rarely goes as planned. There are several young, attractive female staff in their 20s. I'm probably not even on his radar. As expected, Mr. Smith wanted to discuss work, not dinner.
Actually, there's talk of our store making a TV appearance.
On TV?
It's a show where family restaurants and delis showcase their signature dishes and chief judges them.
I know it. My husband and son watch it regularly. The theme is lunch combos and there will be an internal tasting session. This session will determine who represents the store on TV.
We're thinking of having you, Emma, represent us.
I was taken aback and immediately declined. My husband and son criticize my cooking every day. Mr. Smith pondered for a moment.
Do they leave food on their plates?
No, they always finish it.
I have a friend who, no matter how good the restaurant, always says, "You're satisfied with this? I know better places."
Really? Maybe Gordon and Mark are like that.
We need someone like you who cooks daily. Would you consider creating a menu for us?
The responsibility is immense and I lack confidence, but part of me wants to try. I want feedback from people other than Gordon and Mark. I took the challenge seriously and crafted a lunch combo. The company's top executives tasted it and unanimously approved my dish. While my colleagues were thrilled, I felt a mix of shock and resentment towards Gordon and Mark. Despite their daily criticisms, everyone else loved my dish. I can't understand why they would belittle my cooking. Was it just for fun? Furious, I left work early and stopped by the city office. I didn't tell Gordon and Mark about my selection for the TV show. Tonight's dish was shrimp scampi. For some reason, there were 2 cards on the table labeled pass and fail. Did they make these? After tasting a shrimp, Gordon and Mark exchanged glances and simultaneously raised the fail card.
This is clearly a miss. I'm disappointed in this shrimp.
Are they pretending to be judges? Is it fun to mock someone? I grabbed the cards and confronted them. You fail as a husband.
What are you trying to do?
You fail as a son.
Me too?
I glared at them, then lowered my head. I'm sorry for serving you bad food. I won't do it again.
What?
I have reached my limit with their constant negativity. I placed divorce papers on the table. I'm filing for divorce.
Wait.
I won't wait. I have waited for 25 years. I can't wait any longer.
25 years?
Okay, maybe not 25 years, but for the past few years, I've been patient. I can't take it anymore. I am leaving this house. Gordon, in shock, tried to laugh it off.
It's candid camera, right? That's an old reference. Where's the hidden camera?
As he pretended to search, Mark warned him.
Dad, she seems serious. Really?
Of course, I am. Congratulations. You won't have to eat bad food anymore. A whirlwind of change, I quickly moved out and started living on my own. Juliet's support was invaluable. Without the burden of my foolish husband and clueless son, I could focus on my job. Perhaps when life changes, many things start to shift. The company asked me to appear on TV. No way, I can't do TV. You should get someone younger and prettier. That's how TV works. Most people only get one shot at TV in their lifetime. While part of me wanted to do it, I was worried about how I would look on screen.
The show will have the chief judge ask detailed questions about the dish. If it's not the person who made it, they won't be able to answer.
I see. Convinced by Mr. Smith and the executives, I agreed to the TV appearance. I didn't tell Gordon and Mark. I have blocked their calls, so they can't reach me. And I have no intention of reaching out. Of course, I told Juliet about the TV appearance. She was shocked and said, I want to be on it too, with teary eyes. I appeared on TV with Mr. Smith. It was my first time and my heart raced with nervousness. Watching the stern-faced chef silently eat my lunch combo, I felt like apologizing before the judgment.
This bolognese has Worcestershire sauce, ketchup, and
instant coffee.
I see.
Finally, judgment time, I prayed. As the judges unanimously raised the pass card, they even praised it as delicious and perfect. I high-fived Mr. Smith blushing. I hoped it wasn't a dream. After that, I got involved in product development and received a raise. Was it luck that things turned around after escaping from a rude husband and a sarcastic son? 3 months after the divorce, Mark visited the store. He had bulked up like a football player, which surprised me. What happened to you?
I haven't been eating at home, so I've been eating out a lot. Before I knew it, I looked like this.
Serves him right. It's probably karma for mocking the food that a top chef praised.
I saw you on TV. Dad was shouting in disbelief.
Mark smiled, but I only replied, oh.
Please come back, Mom.
Grow up, you're 25, handle it yourself.
Can I at least live with you if you don't want to be with Dad?
Be independent, don't come here again. I spoke coldly, and Mark, seemingly shocked by my firmness, left. The next day, as I was placing an umbrella stand outside the store, a massive man approached.
Emma,
who are you?
Don't play dumb.
It was Gordon, but he had gained a significant amount of weight.
Because of you, I've been eating and drinking at pubs every day. Before I knew it, I couldn't move.
You have no right to call me that anymore. Gordon tried to laugh it off.
Emma, please come back. At this rate, Mark and I will turn into Crusher Blackwell.
Crusher what?
You don't know who Crusher Blackwell? He was a 215-kilo wrestler.
His jokes showed no remorse. I don't want to waste my time talking to you. Please leave. Despite my harsh words, Gordon persisted.
I apologize for everything, truly.
Even as he apologized, I remained silent.
Your cooking was always amazing. My mother told me never to praise someone too much. If you keep saying something's delicious, they won't improve. Wait, where are you going?
Before Gordon could finish his apology, I had already retreated into the store. But to my surprise, he followed me in.
Wait, we were in the middle of a conversation.
I have nothing more to say. If you persist, I'll call the police.
The police?
Gordon dramatically looked around, then back at me.
Why bring the police into a marital issue?
We're not married anymore.
Just give me one more chance.
Please leave. Suddenly, Mr. Smith emerged from the back.
I have called the police. Maybe you should leave. Who are you? I'm the manager of the store. Why are you intervening in a marital dispute?
We are not a couple. Gordon, with his exaggerated gestures, pointed at Mr. Smith and me.
I get it now. Is that why you divorced? Are you two together?
Enough. His rude insinuation infuriated me. What nonsense are you spouting? I won't tolerate it.
Is it true? Is that why you're so upset?
Just then, a police car pulled up and two sturdy officers entered. That's the man.
What are you talking about?
As one officer tried to restrain Gordon, he resisted.
Let me go. She's my wife.
I don't know this giant.
So you're denying me now?
One officer said. We'll discuss this at the station. The other officer was also thrown off. Had Gordon become so strong as a wrestler? Overwhelmed by jealousy, Gordon's face twisted into a terrifying scowl as he grabbed one of the store's umbrellas. I was taken aback, but Mr. Smith bravely stepped in front of me, arms outstretched.
Trying to play the knight, are you? Showing your true colors, you homewrecker?
As Gordon raised the umbrella to strike, an officer from behind forcefully knocked it out of his hand and grabbed Gordon's wrist.
You're under arrest for obstructing official duties. Obstructing official duties? The police's signature move? You think that solves everything? Just come with us. Emma, help!
Everyone on the street was watching. I felt my face burning with embarrassment. The commotion continued as Gordon was forced into the police car. How embarrassing.
Are you okay?
I'm fine. Thank you.
If you ever need help, just let me know.
Such comforting words. You're very kind.
I'm not kind to everyone.
Huh? Mr. Smith left after dropping that ambiguous line. Maybe it wasn't a misunderstanding. Since then, neither Gordon nor Mark visited the store. I finally had peace. After 26 years of marriage, I was free. I could have lunch with Juliet whenever I wanted and enjoy dinners. Even returning to a dark apartment, I never felt lonely. Work was fulfilling and being valued by the company felt great. One day, Mr. Smith approached me.
Emma, do you like musicals?
Musicals?
I got 2 tickets. It's easy to watch a movie anytime, but a play has a fixed date.
I noticed he was sweating. Memories of my youth resurfaced and my heart raced. Maybe it wasn't a misunderstanding after all. I love musicals. I would love to go.
Great!
I'll take the tickets and go with a friend.
What?
Just kidding. How about a nice dinner afterwards? Seeing Mr. Smith's relieved expression, I smiled. Life is unpredictable. Now, I am embarking on a second youth.
Have you moved out yet? Since my eldest son will be living here, you, the dropout daughter-in-law, should leave. At a party showcasing the renovated in-laws' house, my mother-in-law said this to me with a chuckle. Mother-in-law and the couple, William and his wife, have always looked down on me for being a dropout. It seems they plan to take over the house my husband and I renovated. This might be a good chance to show them that everyone has their limits. My name is Olivia, and I'm a 42-year-old housewife. My husband, Jackson, is 40, making me the older spouse. Both my parents passed away from cancer when I was young. They didn't suffer long. They were hospitalized and passed away shortly after. I grew up moving from one relative's house to another. Growing up, I mistakenly felt the need to leave my relatives' homes as soon as possible. I have 2 younger brothers, and I felt responsible for supporting them. Ignoring my relatives' advice, I dropped out of school and started working. I left my brothers with my relatives and got a job at a company with a dormitory. I began a life of sending financial support to my relatives every month. Now, my brothers have grown up, married, and have their own children. After seeing them settled, I quit my long-time job. Currently, I'm helping out a friend's startup from home. Jackson and I have been married for 12 years. Our child turned 10 this year. Jackson is the younger of 2 siblings, with an older brother named William. When we decided to get married, Jackson optimistically thought we wouldn't have to live with his parents since he's the second son. But as it turned out, William and his wife didn't want to live with the in-laws and moved out early on. So, we ended up living with Jackson's parents, taking care of them. Mother-in-law seems to enjoy picking on her daughters-in-law. I've been shocked by her behavior since our first meeting. I believe William and his wife moved out because of mother-in-law's attitude. The first time I visited the in-laws' house, Emma, William's wife, was treated like a housekeeper by mother-in-law. I remember feeling scared seeing that, and I thought I'd never live with them. Moreover, mother-in-law is oddly obsessed with educational backgrounds. Both her sons graduated from state universities. My father-in-law used to be a college professor, and mother-in-law was a high school teacher before retiring. I married into this highly educated family. When mother-in-law found out I was a dropout, she strongly opposed our marriage. It was a miracle we got married. Even after our wedding, mother-in-law's condescending attitude towards me never changed. William and his wife are also college graduates. From them too, my days of being belittled began. Once we started living together, mother-in-law's harassment began immediately. At first, it was small things. Only my fork was always a disposable one. In the beginning, mother-in-law prepared our meals. She also served the food, but I always got a disposable fork. Even the fork I bought for myself would be thrown away by mother-in-law. When I told her, using disposable forks is wasteful, let's stop, she frowned and said, "After all, I don't like washing a non-family member's fork. The idea of washing someone else's fork every time gives me the creeps." I was taken aback by what my mother-in-law said. Back then, I was younger and had never faced such blatant hostility. I wondered if she saw me as an outsider, hence the disposable fork, but it didn't make sense. She kept emphasizing that I was an outsider since I married into the family. Then, I noticed something. Only the towel I used was washed separately, and it was often washed without detergent. Many times it was left damp, leading to a musty smell. I was the only one using a moldy-smelling towel. Perhaps mother-in-law's eagerness to do the chores was a way to subtly torment me. There were times I came home late from work and found myself locked out. "Sorry, I didn't notice," she'd say with a sly grin. I was sure it was intentional. But there was someone else who added to my distress. Emma, my brother-in-law William's wife, or my sister-in-law. When I first met her, she seemed downtrodden, treated like a housemaid by mother-in-law. But once she was free from mother-in-law's grip, she changed. She teamed up with mother-in-law, the very person who tormented her, to harass me. I remember learning in school not to do unto others what you don't want done to you. Emma seemed to have forgotten that. The two, once at odds, now seemed eerily close. Every day they'd gossip about me, saying things like, "That's why dropouts are like this," right in front of me. I wish they'd at least gossip out of my sight. Emma seemed like a pushover for mother-in-law. She accepted everything mother-in-law said, and never forgot to sing her praises. The way she constantly tried to please mother-in-law left me speechless. Living like this was stressful. I'd occasionally vent to my husband Jackson, but he seemed not to fully understand. He wasn't entirely on mother-in-law's side, but he wasn't entirely on mine either. He lacked decisiveness, but was genuinely kind. I love Jackson. I don't want to cause him any trouble. If enduring this would bring peace, I was willing to bear it. Jackson did understand my efforts. From time to time, he'd secretly buy me my favorite cookies. Emma would often drop by unannounced. I work remotely, so I'm often in my room during the day. And I'm not just lounging around. I'm busy with back-to-back meetings and writing articles. Lately, Emma's favorite pastime seems to be disrupting my remote meetings. She'd walk down the hallway talking loudly, or open my door to mock me. One day, she burst in saying, "Stop pretending to work, it's so off-putting." I was in an important meeting, dressed in a suit. She even waved at my boss on the screen. I wish she'd stop. After I managed to get her out, she and mother-in-law gossiped about me in the hallway. During the meeting, I was sweating bullets. It was an experience I never want to remember. Then, out of the blue, something unbelievable happened. We decided to have dinner with William and his wife, and mother-in-law splurged on high-end steak takeout. Even though it's a high-quality steak, I only had the side menu. Of course, I only got the side dishes. Such petty acts had been going on for 12 years. We had recently renovated the house, especially for the elderly father-in-law and mother-in-law. We made it barrier-free and renovated the old bathroom, even adding a small sauna. Both father-in-law and mother-in-law were thrilled, and so was Jackson. Of course, we bore the renovation costs. William and his wife were excited to see the new bathroom and sauna. We also renovated one of our rooms, which they visited. Seeing the screen Jackson installed for movie watching, they looked envious. After the tour, the steak arrived and the dinner began. I had prepared salads, soups, and kids' meals. Since William and his wife didn't have kids, my child was the first grandchild for father-in-law and mother-in-law. As I nibbled on my side dishes and listened to mother-in-law and William's family discuss the renovation, mother-in-law dropped a bombshell. "When are you moving out? William is moving in, so you need to leave." I was so shocked that I couldn't comprehend her words. "Wait, what do you mean?" "I've put up with you for 10 years. Now that the house is nice, it's time for you to go. I want to live with Emma and her family." I was stunned as my mother-in-law spoke with a smug grin, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. I looked at William and his wife, thinking it was a joke, but they too had the same nasty smiles. "Hurry up and leave." Something inside me snapped at their mocking tone. Even the usually calm Jackson looked stern. I gave Jackson a look, asking, "Do we not have to put up with this anymore?" Jackson smiled and made a big circle gesture above his head. "So, you want us to leave this house?" I asked. Yes, it's been humiliating having a dropout like you here for 10 years. Mother-in-law sneered. I was appalled. After all, she had run away from her own harassment. With Jackson's approval, I felt I no longer had to endure. "We'll move to a new, beautiful, and spacious house," I declared, smiling at William, his wife, and mother-in-law. Now it was their turn to be taken aback. "Huh?" As they stared in disbelief, I repeated myself. Their expressions showed that they hadn't grasped the situation. "Olivia and I were talking about maybe something like this could happen. You can imagine what William and the others would think," the usually quiet Jackson said in a deep voice. From the start, we knew the renovation was for William and his wife. I had overheard them secretly discussing it with mother-in-law. But suggesting a renovation for an aging house seemed normal. I didn't want to believe there was malice behind it. I hesitated to bother Jackson with this, but I decided to let him in on what was happening. At first, Jackson seemed to think it was a joke, but when he heard someone wanted a sauna, he realized something was up. His father has high blood pressure and was advised against using saunas by his doctor. It turned out William was the one pushing for the sauna. We began to suspect that William and his wife planned to make us renovate the house, only to take it from us later, just like cuckoos taking over another bird's nest. We could have confronted William and his wife, or even my mother-in-law, but seeing Jackson's disappointment broke my heart. I think he wanted to trust William and mother-in-law until the very end. It made me tear up. "Why don't we build our own house?" I suggested, looking into Jackson's eyes. "What do you mean? Build a new, beautiful, spacious house? That sounds too good to be true." The first to react was Emma. She had always dreamed of a new home, but William's gambling habits meant they couldn't save up for one. They were also in debt and always strapped for cash. I believe they moved into Jackson's parents' house because they couldn't keep up with their apartment rent. They probably saw living rent-free in Jackson's parents' house as a step towards their dream home. I suspect they plan to sell the land once Jackson's parents pass away and use the money to buy a new, beautiful, spacious house. Yes, we finally got our new house. You can see it from here. It's the one right across the street. Emma, you've been admiring it, haven't you? I pointed to the newly built house across the road, the one Emma would gaze at dreamily every time she visited. I think it's her dream home. We initially planned to build somewhere farther away, but Jackson chose that plot. He probably wanted to show off our new home to William and his wife, who had plans to take over the renovated house. The plan worked. Emma looked genuinely upset. "We're moving to that house. William and his wife can handle the rest. They'll be living here, so they should cover the remaining renovation costs," Jackson said, smiling at William and his wife. But his eyes weren't smiling. It scared me. Once we finished our steaks, Jackson said, "Shall we move?" Our new home had just passed its final inspection the day before. I didn't expect William and his wife to spill the beans so soon, but I'm glad we were ready. "Olivia, you're such a failure as a wife. Your ideas are ridiculous and scary. Do you want to burden Jackson with more debt? You're so demanding." Mother-in-law shouted at me, clearly frustrated. She kept repeating "demanding wife" and "dropout," as if she couldn't think of any other insults. It was almost amusing. "Mom, apologize to Olivia." "What are you talking about? I'm just worried about you. It's sad to see you deceived by such a demanding dropout wife," Mother-in-law replied, reaching out to Jackson. But Jackson coldly brushed her hand away. Mother-in-law, who'd never been rejected by her son before, was in shock. I'd never seen Jackson act this cold before. "It's terrible. Deceived by such a demanding wife. Do you plan to ignore me? Jackson's the one burdened with debt. He'll work for this demanding wife for the rest of his life, right? Can't you see that?" Mother-in-law cried out, tears streaming down her face. Jackson looked at her with cold eyes and let out a deep sigh. "Mom, why don't you get it? Olivia earns more than I do. The land and the house were bought with the money she saved when she was single. I don't have any debt. Why can't you be grateful to Olivia?" All eyes turned to me after Jackson's comment. Right after middle school, I started working to financially support my younger siblings who were being raised by our relatives. But those relatives never spent the money I gave them. When I became an adult, they handed it all back to me. At the same time, I also received the life insurance money my parents had left behind. Only when I became an adult did I understand why my relatives had desperately tried to stop me from working right after middle school. It's true. You really should listen to the whole story before jumping to conclusions. Because I never spent money on myself, I grew up not really knowing how to use it. I became a woman whose hobby was saving. When we first got married, I showed Jackson my bank card. He was shocked by the amount. "This is what Olivia saved up. I want her to use it on something she truly desires." I was deeply moved by Jackson's words. I decided right then to use it on something Jackson really wanted. "Olivia made my dream come true. I can't thank her enough," Jackson said with a smile. I felt a bit embarrassed and looked down. I was so happy to see Jackson pleased, and I felt refreshed seeing the stunned faces of William and mother-in-law and the frustrated look on Emma's face. Oh, by the way, no one but Dad is allowed in our house. Even if you come, you won't be let in. Jackson declared this to everyone present. Father-in-law jokingly said, "Oh, so I can visit," looking pleased. After we left, we could hear Williams shouting and mother-in-law screaming for a long time. After that, true to Jackson's declaration, William, his wife, and mother-in-law were never allowed in our new home. Father-in-law, however, visited almost daily, happily teaching our child chess. According to father-in-law, there's now constant fighting at the spouse's parents' house. Especially between mother-in-law and Emma, there seemed to be numerous issues. Every day, they shout at each other, leaving William and father-in-law exasperated. William is now working a side job cleaning at night, burdened with his own debts and the renovation loan. He's losing patience with Emma, who insists on being a housewife. Father-in-law believes it's only a matter of time before they divorce. We've never received apology calls from mother-in-law, but Jackson says there's no need to answer it, so we don't. Our new home is truly wonderful, and we're living comfortably. We even got the border collie puppy our son always wanted. We've set up a small dog run in the yard with artificial turf. Our son is thrilled to have the puppy that mother-in-law wouldn't let him get at her house. Perhaps he had been holding back because of mother-in-law, but in our new home he laughs out loud. Sometimes to drown out the yelling from across the street. We're considering installing soundproofing.
I'm Olivia. I've been married for just 6 months, so I'm still a newlywed. Juggling my nursing job and getting used to household chores has been a challenge. I met my husband Jackson at a cycling club. We enjoy bike rides together on weekends. Our relationship feels like an extension of our friendship. We do argue, but once we've said our piece, we quickly make up. It's like we're characters from a lighthearted comic, but there are people around us who act like villains from a drama, and it's really draining. "Oh, I'm sorry. It seems I only ordered steak for 4. When we visited Jackson's parents' house for a weekend family dinner, my mother-in-law had a typical passive-aggressive surprise waiting. "Such an oversight on my part." "We've always been 4, so it's understandable." My father-in-law and sister-in-law, Isabella, chuckled. "I'm sorry, Olivia. We have some bread I baked yesterday. You can have it with jam." Even though she pretended to forget, she's pushing leftovers on me. It's unbelievable. This is the 3rd time she's done this. Jackson, who believed his mom's oversights the first 2 times, is now clearly annoyed. "I'll eat the bread, Olivia. You have the steak." "That's not how it works. You're the one supporting your wife. How many times have I told you Olivia earns as much as I do? If someone's not working, maybe you, Mom, should eat the leftover bread." "Well, sister-in-law, that's mean. Mom didn't do it on purpose." Did I do something wrong?" "That's it. If there's no food for my wife, we're leaving." "Why? We can just eat as a family." "My family includes Olivia. If you can't understand that, we won't be visiting for a while." Okay, let's split my steak. Olivia, is that okay?" "No thanks." "Ugh! Eating in such an unwelcoming atmosphere feels like torture." We left, shaking off the clingy mother-in-law and Isabella. Thankfully, they hadn't tampered with our belongings. This has been the norm since our wedding. Mother-in-law and Isabella openly harass me while father-in-law smirks. When confronted, they play innocent. They even do it in front of Jackson. I wonder if they're trying to rope Jackson into their mean games. But miraculously, Jackson turned out okay despite his family. The kind-hearted Jackson who initially believed his mom and sister is now fed up with their antics against me. He's clearly on my side. I'm not the submissive type, so I don't feel the need to get along with Jackson's family at the expense of my well-being. I'll stand my ground, which seems to infuriate them even more. Interacting with them is just exhausting. After discussing with Jackson, we decided I wouldn't visit his parents' house for a while. But they had other plans. They can't resist tormenting a daughter-in-law they disapprove of. "Hello, sister-in-law." "Olivia, how have you been?" A month after the steak incident, while Jackson was at work, mother-in-law and Isabella showed up at our place. "Isabella, mother-in-law, what brings you here?" Don't be so guarded. We're sorry we forgot to order your steak last time. We brought a cake as an apology. Would you like to share it with us? Really? There are 3 pieces. I checked, so don't worry. I really didn't want to, but after all, they're Jackson's family. It's rare for them to apologize, and I don't want to cause a scene and disturb other condo residents. Plus, I'm just off a night shift and I don't have the energy to argue. Reluctantly, I let them in. Wow, it's quite a mess in here. I regretted inviting them in just a minute after. The second round of passive-aggressive comments towards me had already begun. We've been busy with work and didn't expect any guests. You should always keep it clean. Do you want to get Jackson sick? Exactly. Our house is always clean because Mom takes care of it. That's what a wife should do, right? Clean? Sure, whenever I visit my spouse's parents' house, it's spotless, almost unnaturally so. But their closet? Jam-packed to the point the door was half open. I wanted to point that out, but I just wanted them to leave, so I quickly served the cake. If you can't handle housework, why not quit your job? I can. It would be a burden on my coworkers. Don't worry, everything will be fine, even without you, Olivia. How can someone who's never worked say that? Oh, how about moving in with us? I can teach you all the duties of a wife, and I'll even let you work. That sounds great. I'd love to get closer to my sister-in-law. No way. I'd never want to live with them. We're good, just the 2 of us. Oh well, it was a suggestion. What a pity. They surprisingly backed off quite easily. It felt eerie. Can I use the restroom? Sure. Isabella went to the bathroom, leaving me alone with my mother-in-law. Don't worry about the living together thing. We're family, after all. That's not the point. When Isabella finally came out, they continued their barrage of comments until they finished their cake and finally left. They even had 3 cups of tea each. Closing the front door, I felt a wave of exhaustion. Jackson will be home soon. I need to start dinner. Fighting the urge to lie down, I slowly head into the living room. Distracted by my fatigue and frustration, I didn't notice the bedroom door was left open. Hey, Jackson. What's up? Do you know where the contents of my red tin are? The red tin with the letters from your patients? No idea. I thought so. That night, after my in-laws' unexpected visit, I noticed the contents of a tin in my bedroom were missing. This tin held letters from patients I had cared for. I had been organizing these letters in my bedroom just before they arrived. I was preparing dinner right after they left, so I didn't check the bedroom until bedtime. I had completely forgotten about it. But now, the contents were gone. All that was left was the red tin. I thought maybe I had taken it to the living room, so I searched everywhere but couldn't find it. After a night's sleep, I searched again but still couldn't find it. Then it hit me. Yesterday, Isabella's bathroom break was unusually long. Could it be? I quickly grabbed my phone and called my mother-in-law. Oh, a call from Olivia. That's rare. Even over the phone, I could tell she sounded oddly cheerful. I'm sorry, but I can't find a bundle of letters from my patients since yesterday. Do you know anything about it? Oh, you've lost something so important. How careless. I don't know, but I'll ask Isabella. After a while, Isabella came on the line. Sister-in-law, I'm sorry. I might have thrown it away. What? My worst fears were confirmed, and I felt sick. I tidied up your bedroom a bit when I went to the bathroom. I didn't ask you to. It was messy and it bothered me. That doesn't give you the right to go into my bedroom and throw away my things. I'm sorry, I get so engrossed when I start cleaning. People often tell me I'm naturally eccentric. What does that even mean? Olivia, Isabella didn't mean any harm. It's your fault for not keeping your room tidy in the first place. I can't believe. I think we should move in together. I can teach you how to clean properly. We're both a bit forgetful, so you must be worried, right? We can support each other. My mother-in-law laughed, and I could hear Isabella laughing in the background. There's no point talking to them. I need to look for the letters. Goodbye. I hung up, feeling defeated. I found it. Opening the bedroom trash can, I found the letters I was looking for, but they were crumpled up, having been forced into the small bin. I carefully spread out each letter, trying to smooth out the creases. I could still read the words, but they were now tainted. These letters were my motivation to continue as a nurse. Some were from people I'd never see again. I felt so sad and angry. I could tolerate their harassment towards me, But this was unforgivable. They trampled on people's feelings, and I could never forgive them. When Jackson heard what his sister had done, he looked devastated. Maybe we should move far away. But you have a stable job, and it would be hard to start over in another state. I like my current job, and I have patients I care for. I don't want to give up on everything because of them. But I appreciate Jackson's willingness to even give up his family for me, but we have a powerful ally on our side. I think I'll talk to Dad. Your dad? He's a great guy, but... Jackson looked a bit troubled. It might seem pathetic to rely on a parent, but we had no choice. I want to show them what naturally eccentric really means. After convincing Jackson, I called my dad. A few days later, without any notice, Jackson and I visited my in-laws. What's this sudden visit? Decided to move in? At the entrance, my mother-in-law greeted us with a smug smile. No way, Jackson retorted, clearly annoyed. Unable to comprehend his frustration, Isabella and father-in-law piled on with their self-centered remarks. Living together would make everyone happy, don't you think? We're making a generous offer here, and you two are just being stubborn. You see, a daughter-in-law should... A daughter-in-law should what? Huh? A deep voice suddenly interrupted, causing everyone to flinch. From behind us, my dad slowly emerged. It's been a while, hasn't it? Since Jackson and my daughter's wedding. Yes it has. Father-in-law took a step back. My dad, with his bear-like stature and fox-like sharp gaze, was intimidating even to those who knew him. Mother-in-law whispered in my ear, tugging at my arm. Why is your dad here? Because you said I was a terrible daughter-in-law. I thought you might want to see the face of the man who raised me. Hey, lower your voice. It's fine. I'm not bothered by my loud voice. So I heard my daughter isn't up to your standards. Dad's piercing gaze settled on mother-in-law. Well, what exactly is she lacking? Her room is messy. From what I saw, it didn't seem that bad. You must have very high standards. Let me see for myself. Wait a minute. Ignoring her, Dad began inspecting the house. This was the reason for our unannounced visit. The clutter they usually hid in closets and spare rooms was now scattered everywhere, from the living room to the hallway. Even food wrappers and dust were left untouched. From a neutral standpoint, it seems my daughter keeps her place tidier than this. Dad tilted his head, puzzled. But you came unannounced. Oh? I heard you told my daughter she should always keep her place clean, even without plans. Your words don't match your actions. Well, if this is your standard of cleanliness, my daughter is just fine. No need for you two to live together. Deciding that was enough, Dad headed for the exit. Wait! Isabella tried to stop him. Despite being momentarily intimidated by his glare, she looked up pleadingly. Sister-in-law is so mean. She blames us for small mistakes and keeps rejecting us. Oh, I heard. Like how you only ordered food for 4 during a meal, excluding her. Dad responded calmly. Did she think that Dad, who had a surprising ear to listen, would be able to do it? Hoping he'd be sympathetic, mother-in-law chimed in. Yes, I accidentally ordered for the 4 of us. Olivia seemed upset I didn't mean any harm. That's unfortunate. Right? You should visit a neurologist immediately. What? Mother-in-law makes a stupid sound at Dad's sudden proposal. I suspect a brain disorder if you keep making such mistakes without any ill intentions. No, I know a good doctor. They're quite popular, so the earliest appointment is in a week. Is that okay? No, thank you. You shouldn't hesitate. It's not good for my daughter to blame an elderly person with a potential illness. Elderly? Seeing mother-in-law's shocked face, Dad turned to Isabella. You too. Huh? Dad also targets Isabella. You seem forgetful and cause trouble for others. Disposing of important documents in someone else's room might be a sign of an illness. I'll arrange for you both to be seen together. Don't worry. I'm fine. I'm perfectly healthy. You're around 40, right? It's a pity at such a young age. I'm 25. Oh, my apologies. I thought you were Jackson's older sister, not his younger one. Wow, Dad. Isabella, who never seems to care about fashion or grooming, always looks grumpy. Does seem. Well, a lot older than she is. I bet if Dad, who generally believes this, said it out loud, it would hurt Isabella more. Yes, he truly believes it. He suspects a brain issue and suggests a hospital visit out of pure concern. Though Dad looks intimidating, he was born into a privileged family. Maybe that's why he's genuinely, well, naturally eccentric. If it weren't for Mom being so grounded, our family would have been in chaos. Don't worry, if your wife and daughter go to the hospital, they'll surely find out what's wrong. Being treated as if his wife and daughter are ill, and genuinely. Wait, I'm not senile and I'm not sick. People with illnesses often deny it. It must be shocking to think you're sick. That's not true. Mother-in-law vehemently denies, almost ready to lash out. She must have realized they might genuinely take her to the hospital. It's on purpose, not ordering my daughter-in-law's steak. My daughter throwing away her stuff. It's all to spite her. Finally, mother-in-law admits her actions. Spiting her? Dad's eyes widen a bit. So you mean the typical spite towards a daughter-in-law? Yes, your daughter is too cheeky. Even though she's Jackson's wife, she's not a housewife and neglects household chores. We allow her to work so she could at least obey us when we meet. I endured spite from my mother-in-law. Isn't it unfair? Now it's Mom's turn. Isabella turns in with mother-in-law's momentum, but Dad's reaction isn't what they expected. Poor thing. Huh? Dad looks at mother-in-law with pity. His eyes might be intimidating, but as his daughter, I can see the compassion. You've been treated horribly by father-in-law's mother all this time, haven't you? Didn't your husband protect you then? Well, it's not my daughter who's cruel, it's your husband. My sister was also mistreated by her mother-in-law, and her husband noticed and decided to separate from the mother-in-law. Mother-in-law gasps. When a couple marries, they should have their own household. A husband's duty is to protect his wife and children. Your husband abandoned that duty. Wait a minute! Father-in-law tries to interrupt Dad. Sorry for overstaying. Basically, a parent's role is to watch over their children's households. Oh, I'll make a hospital appointment just in case. We don't need a hospital, Isabella protests, almost screaming. But Dad isn't listening. Jackson, tell me your mom and sister's names later. Yes! Come on, Mom, say something. Mother-in-law, who was loud just moments ago, now looks pale. She probably realized who the real enemy is. The reason she could spite her daughter-in-law in front of Jackson was because she had real-life experience knowing her husband wouldn't side with the daughter-in-law. It's truly pitiful. Dad's right, she's a poor soul. Leaving behind a shouting Isabella and father-in-law and a contemplative mother-in-law, we leave the in-laws' house, probably because of the commotion at the entrance. The neighbors are watching from a distance, curious. Taking the opportunity, I explain the real situation of the spite towards the daughter-in-law, also mentioning the important letters that was thrown away. Receiving sympathy and encouragement, I express my gratitude. With some people listening intently, the story of the spite will probably spread quickly. Thanks, Dad. Yeah, with that level of chaos, you probably won't have to live with them. Good for you. Yes. Dad smiles, though it's a bit strained, but that's the best smile he can muster. Jackson, I'll give you the hospital's number. You should call, being family and all. You're really gonna call? Of course! What if something happened to your precious parents? Now that's what I call genuinely eccentric. He can't read the room, takes words at face value, but cares for everyone without bias. Fake eccentrics don't stand a chance against that. Later, Dad and Jackson actually took mother-in-law and Isabella to the hospital. Of course they were healthy, but Dad joked, so it's just a bad personality then. Good to know. Apparently, Isabella gave him a death stare. Yet mother-in-law just went home without much reaction. And then, chaos started in the in-laws' house. Having realized who the real enemy was, mother-in-law heavily blamed father-in-law for his past actions, and father-in-law, without any remorse or apologies, made things worse, pushing their relationship to the brink of divorce. In the midst of this, Isabella and father-in-law, feeling abandoned by mother-in-law, stormed our house. Olivia, it's because of your dad stirring things up that Mom and Dad are on the verge of divorce. We were doing fine until you guys interfered. I looked at the two of them, fuming with a cool expression. So, sacrificing the daughter-in-law was the secret to a happy family? Gross. What did you say? Father-in-law, quick to anger, raised his fist. But we had a guest today. Oh, isn't that Jackson's dad? It's my dad. Are you here to spite the daughter-in-law again? Is it that fun? Does it release a lot of dopamine? Isabella, if you keep this up, you'll get more wrinkles and look even older. Shut up. See, getting angry isn't good. Dad looked down at Isabella with genuine concern, and being oblivious to how this might hurt her pride is so typical of my dad. Oh, I know someone hosting an anger management workshop. Interested? I suggested, and Dad's face lit up. Oh, that sounds great. Let's book it right away. Enough is enough. Isabella, on the verge of tears, yelled as she dragged father-in-law away. I doubt they'll ever storm our house again. Dad just happened to be here today, bringing back souvenirs from his trip with Mom. I felt bad for dragging him into this. Why are you so obsessed with spiting the daughter-in-law? There are so many fun things in the world. Dad genuinely wondered. They just think differently from you, Dad. I see. Are you okay, Olivia? If you're worried, you can always move in with us. I'll pass on that offer. I knew it was a genuine offer out of concern, but living with my well-meaning but eccentric dad might be too much for Jackson. Sometimes distance helps maintain a good relationship. It's okay. Jackson's on my side. That's reassuring. We'll work hard together so you won't have to worry, Dad. Jackson and I are solid, because unlike mother-in-law and her family, we've a bond that they lack.
So, mother-in-law, have you completed the inheritance paperwork yet? Yeah, have you received the money already? Back when my husband was well, Julian and his family hardly ever visited, but now, here they are. They deliberately brought our grandson, Elliot, to my house and started asking about my late husband's inheritance. Without even attempting to hide their greedy intentions, they suggested the inheritance should be used for our grandson. For most grandparents, grandchildren are inherently adorable. However, Elliot, who was brought over just so Julian could squeeze money out of me, seemed like a stranger. No, the process is complicated and it's not done yet. I quickly tell a lie. Ashley smirks. Would you like some help with that? Julian raised his voice, clearly irritated by my attitude. Meanwhile, Elliot, who hadn't even greeted me, was running around the living room and rummaging through the fridge for snacks and juice. For a grandchild, his behavior was far from adorable. And his parents, who were only here to talk about money, did nothing to discipline him. I was stunned by their audacity. To make matters worse, the next day Ashley's parents showed up, preaching to me about what a family should be like. Despite being practically strangers to me, they had no issue voicing their self-serving opinions, possibly blinded by the $3 million inheritance. I had reached my breaking point. Just then, a loud crash echoed from behind me. Taking that as my cue, I decided it was time to teach them a lesson. I am Kristen, 66 years old this year. I was a simple housewife with 2 children, but my late husband was a businessman who had amassed considerable wealth. After his funeral, the subject of inheritance caused friction between me and my children. They say money changes people, but I never thought my own son would be among them. I never expected this to escalate into such a chaotic situation, involving even non-family members. After the funeral, I called a lawyer and discussed the inheritance with my children. In the end, almost all of my husband's estate would be transferred to me, thanks to a will he'd prepared that was intended to compensate me for my struggles. I'd spent 6 years catering to my husband, who was averse to living in a facility. He had a variety of interests: smoking, drinking, betting on horse races, which made caregiving anything but easy. At that time, our children had already moved out. I had done my best not to burden them. So, I felt grateful for the portion my husband had left for me in his will, recognizing my efforts. The inheritance amounted to around $3 million. My daughter Sasha was supportive from the get-go. She was convinced that I should inherit everything, especially considering the separate sums my husband had prepared for the children. The problem was Julian, my son. Frowning, Julian started to speak his mind freely. Sasha is single and I have a family. It's unfair we get the same amount. Well, your wife isn't entitled to any of it, so it's only fair. Even so, $3 million for mom, that's way too much. What about your children? Julian was intent on portraying me as a greedy to increase his own share. Despite the will being kept safely with a lawyer, he claimed that I fabricated it. He argued that it was unfair not to divide the inheritance equally among his sister and himself. Finally, Julian threatened to sue me, drawing sharp criticism from the attending lawyer. If they were so adamant about their entitlement, they should have at least shown their faces more often. Sasha used to visit now and then, but Julian never made an effort. He always cited work or parenting as reasons for not visiting us. I sighed, thinking about Julian, who had shown no help with caregiving, but was now so concerned about the money. "Don't worry about Julian, Mom," Sasha reassured me. But is Julian really that strapped for cash? I wondered. Who knows? They often go on family trips. Maybe they just want more spending money, Sasha speculated. Her words gave me an uneasy feeling. That gut feeling proved accurate. I was about to get entangled in yet another fruitless quarrel with Julian and his family. A while after discussing the inheritance and consulting with the lawyer, the paperwork for receiving the inheritance was finally complete. That's when Julian and his wife, Ashley, showed up at our home. Though I had an uneasy feeling, I let them in. After brief pleasantries, they quickly got to the topic of the inheritance. "Did you already finish all the inheritance paperwork, mother-in-law?" "Yeah, is the money transferred?" "No, the process is a bit complicated, so it's not done yet." "If you need help, we can assist. Managing $3 million must be a headache, right?" "I'm good, thanks. So, what brings you here today?" "Come on, don't be so cold. We even brought your grandson to see you." Along with them was Elliot, my grandson, whom I hadn't seen since he was in elementary school, and even before my husband passed away. I had only babysat Elliot a few times when he was a baby. I hadn't even been invited to his birthday parties or any other celebrations lately. The most I had done was send gifts and monetary gifts through Julian. To a regular grandparent, a grandchild might be unconditionally adorable. But to me, Elliot felt like a stranger, just another kid Julian and his spouse brought along to squeeze money out of me. "Isn't it great to see your grandson after such a long time?" "Well, I suppose. Kids will start costing more money as they grow, you know." "That's true. You two better start working hard." "What's that supposed to mean? Don't you want to do something nice for your adorable grandson?" Meanwhile, Elliot, the subject of all this fuss, didn't even greet me. He was busy running around the living room and even went as far as open the fridge to dig out snacks and juice. Neither Ashley nor Julian reprimanded Elliot. They simply emphasized how energetic and cute their son was. "What's so cute about this disrespectful kid?" "Elliot, don't you think you're a bit too wild? Teaching manners and common sense is a parent's job." "Oh, our parenting approach doesn't include scolding, so it's fine." I had no idea what she meant by fine, but it seemed Elliot wasn't getting the hint that he was being admonished. Ashley followed Elliot around as he freely explored the house, so I felt compelled to step in. "Would you listen?" I began, but Elliot cut me off with a, "You're annoying!" He laughed dismissively and even slapped my leg. Watching all this and seeing my son and daughter-in-law only pestering for money without disciplining their out-of-line son, I had reached my limit. "Enough is enough. Julian, you've already had the inheritance talk with the attorney. Yeah, but taking $3 million is way over the top, Mom. Didn't think you'd be so greedy. The greedy one is you. I don't have money to give to people who'd never done anything for me. What followed was a heated argument over who was the real money grabber. Frustrated but resolute, I kicked Julian and his family out of my house. Had they been more cordial with my husband and me over the years, I might have considered leaving them an inheritance or education funds. But watching Julian and his crew trying to force their selfish agenda, I felt nothing but anger and disbelief. Despite our heated exchange and my asking them to leave, Julian and his family returned the next day with Ashley's parents in tow. Even after asking them their purpose through the intercom, all they did was demand entry into the house. Figuring it would be a nuisance to the neighbors, I reluctantly let them in. Once inside, Ashley's parents began lecturing me. Look, we're both families with adorable grandchild. We need to help each other out. That's right, you've just lost your husband, you must be feeling vulnerable. So this is family, is it? This is helping each other? I felt like the two of them went on and on, lecturing me. Julian and Ashley just nodded in agreement, not uttering a word. As usual, their adorable son, Elliot, was running around the living room, full of energy. I told him to stop running. "Shut up!" Elliot shouted, as per usual. And for that, rather than being concerned about the child's behavior, I ended up getting blamed by all four of them. Normal families would want to help their sons and grandchildren in any way they can, especially for when the day comes that we need their help. I plan to prepare things for myself so that I'm not a burden on my children. That's a lonely way to think, and that's why you don't get to see your grandson. Aren't you ashamed to only think about yourself? That's right, our daughter gave birth to that child. Your husband was Elliot's grandfather. He would have wanted to help financially. They talked a lot about family ties, but in the end, it all came back to money. Were these two also swayed by Julian and Ashley? Were they here just to get their hands on some inheritance? I had had enough. They assumed Julian would be their future caregiver because he's their daughter's husband. They talked nonsense about what a family should be, even though they're practically strangers. Clash! Suddenly, a loud noise came from behind, making everyone turn around. There on the floor were shattered pieces of a vase that used to sit on a shelf, and Elia's surprised face. He probably knocked it over while running around. Seeing the vase my late husband loved, now in pieces, I felt a surge of anger inside me. Wow, that's a spectacle. Hey, Elliot, are you okay? You didn't get hurt, did you? Why would you put something dangerous within a child's reach? If our precious grandson gets hurt, you know you'll have to pay for it, right? Julian, who just smirked, Ashley and her parents making a fuss about potential injuries. I listened to them in silence, already fuming, and let out a heavy sigh. So, where is the inheritance? You've probably settled all the formalities by now, right? About that, huh? That vase Elliot just shattered was part of my husband's legacy. For a moment, Julian and the others exchanged glances and fell silent. They glanced briefly at the shards, then looked at my angry face and paled. Mother-in-law, you're joking, right? No joke. As you all mentioned, the formalities are already completed, but keeping that much money in cash is a risk nowadays. Who knows who might target it? So I converted it into something valuable. Kristen replied, a hint of sarcasm in her voice. The confusion on their faces was evident. I had to hold back a chuckle. Pretending to be distraught, I looked down and covered my mouth. Come on, there's no way that ugly vase is worth $3 million, right? Right, Mom? Would you like me to show you the certificate for the vase? Oh, and I suppose I'll need to file a police report. What? You're kidding, right? It was a child's mistake. Well, parents are responsible for their children's actions, right? Can you cover the $3 million? Don't say such things. After all, families should help each other. Yes, exactly. So, you'll help me, right? After all, I'm family too, and you ruined my husband's legacy. The four of them exchanged glances, clearly flustered and at a loss for words. The first to speak was Julian. He said it was Ashley's fault for not disciplining their child properly. Ashley trying to argue back, and Ashley's parents defensively claiming that how their grandchild was raised wasn't their concern. Enough! How can adults who can't even apologize talk about disciplining a child? Not one of them attempted to apologize to me. This only fueled my anger further. I couldn't stand their attitude, acting as it was okay to inconvenience others. Only Elliot quietly apologized to me, saying, "I'm sorry." He probably did so reflexively, sensing how angry I was. Despite witnessing all this, the four of them kept their heads down and said nothing. Julian finally mustered the courage to say, "We'll discuss this another day." Then they all hastily left. Elliot, the person at the center of all this, was led away with a clueless expression on his face, which I couldn't help but find amusing. So, that's why I thought I should fill in Sasha first. What is Julian even thinking? People really change when money is involved. After a hearty laugh, I made sure to tell Sasha about what had transpired and to be wary of Julian. Every now and then, they'd call as if they'd forgotten about everything, usually about their son's activities or birthday gifts. Every time they call, I remind them cleaning up those broken pot pieces was heartbreaking. After that, they usually hang up pretty quickly. A few weeks after reaching out to Sasha, I got a call from her. Apparently, just as we suspected, Julian had gone crying to Sasha. "Hey Sasha, can you lend me some of the inheritance you received?" "Are you kidding? You're still asking for that?" "I'm begging you. I've gotten myself into a bit of a jam." Julian had frantically approached Sarah, saying he needed to compensate for a $3 million vase he'd broken. When asked what happened to the inheritance he received, Julian said Ashley and his in-laws were spendthrifts and had already blown through it all. Sasha apparently lectured Julian, saying that he brought this on himself by being greedy when he should have been content with what he had. Julian desperately tried to use his kids as an excuse to wheedle more money, but Sasha patiently explained that even her share wouldn't cover his debts. Dejected, Julian went back home. Hearing all this, I couldn't help but laugh again. It seems Julian and his family are now at odds over who should take responsibility for the debt. Occasionally, they'd call, taking turns asking for leniency, but as soon as I'd suggest we talk through lawyers, they'd go silent. They ended up hanging up on their end. Thanks to that, I'm now enjoying my days without any involvement with them. By the way, the story about my grandson Elliot breaking a $3 million vase as part of the inheritance was, of course, a lie. The actual vase was a cheap one my late husband had picked up from Home Depot because he liked it. It had been a decorative vase since my husband's time, but we only started displaying it after Julian and his family had moved out. There's no way they could have known about it. If they had shown any regret for their actions and a willingness to make amends, I would have happily told them the truth. However, I haven't heard from them since those few phone calls. In fact, it seems they've blocked my number. I can't even get through to them. Naturally, the real inheritance is still sitting safely in the bank. I had been planning to use a little for my retirement and leave the rest for the kids, but after the incident, I've completely changed my mind. Sasha, how about we go on a trip together sometime? Sounds good. Where should we go? How about a hot spring resort? Oh, that sounds lovely. Also, I've been wanting to have a proper conversation with you about my inheritance. After seeing Julian and his family's true colors, I've had a change of heart. I can't entrust my late husband's hard-earned money to people like them. I'm now thinking of not only leaving the inheritance to Sasha, but also exploring better ways to use it as we move forward in life.
I am Whitney, a spry 67-year-old. A few years ago, my husband, who was a lawyer, passed away in an accident, and now I'm living alone. I have one son, but he got married and moved out. His name is Timothy. He's 35 years old. He works at a civil engineering firm, and currently, due to his job in a rural area, he resides in a rental apartment nearby with his wife. His wife, Brittany, is 33 years old. Timothy and she met at their workplace where they were colleagues, grew close, and after a period of dating, they got married 3 years ago. Given their jobs entail long business trips, they have decided to hold off on having children for now, so they don't have any yet. As for me, I'm eager to see my grandchildren, but I understand Timothy has his plans, so I'm patient. Currently, I am not employed, but thanks to my late husband's life insurance, accident insurance, and inheritance, I am living comfortably. I believe I am in good health for now, but recently I have started feeling the weakening of my legs and hips, and living alone has begun to feel a bit unsettling. One day, Timothy called to say he would visit. I was looking forward to it, since it had been a while since he said something like that. Then Timothy came over with Brittany. "Mom, long time no see. Have you been well?" "Whitney, it's been a while. Have you changed at all?" They had mentioned they had some news to share, which had me secretly hoping, could it be that they're having a baby? "Well, the project I am on is nearing completion, and it has been decided that I'll be working at the headquarters after this." "Oh, does that mean you're moving back here?" "Yeah, my job will be more administrative from now on, so I shouldn't have to work on site anymore." "That's good news. The headquarters is in the city, right? If you won't be going to sites anymore, how about buying a house somewhere?" "Actually, Brittany suggested something. We were thinking, why not move in and live here with you?" "That's right. Since Whitney is alone now, and considering your age is becoming a concern, we thought we could take care of you if we lived together, if necessary." "Really? I still feel quite energetic, you know. But it's uncertain what might happen, and living alone at your age is indeed concerning." "Well, I do feel uneasy about living alone at times. But isn't this house too old to accommodate all of us?" "This house was built by my husband and has been standing for 30 years as a 2-story home. It even boasts a reasonably spacious backyard. The first floor houses the kitchen, a bathroom, and a toilet. There's the living room and 3 bedrooms. The second floor consists of a room my husband used as the study, and another room we used as our bedroom. I guess if Timothy and his wife moved in, they'd occupy the first floor, and I'd take the second? I have a suggestion." Brittany leaned in with excitement. "How about we do some renovations?" "Renovations?" "Yeah, this house was built during the dot-com bubble era. It's made of good materials and is pretty solid. It'd be a waste to tear it down. That's why Brittany thinks we should renovate and live together." "Well, speaking of that..." Brittany hesitated a bit. "Would you mind covering the costs?" "The costs?" "Yes, we got a quick estimate before coming here. We'll make the first floor barrier-free. The kitchen will be updated and integrated with the living room, turning it into an open-concept kitchen. We'll also revamp the bathroom and toilet with the latest fittings. For the second floor, we'll add a spacious balcony and turn it into a sunroom. We'll stay on the second floor and create a room on the first floor for Whitney. Stairs can be tough for seniors, and having a nearby toilet is a plus, right? All in all, the budget is around $120,000. Brittany explained rapidly. She seemed quite passionate about this plan. If you agree to this plan, we can live together, and I'll also help care for you in the future. Timothy chimed in. Well, we have some savings, but thinking of future expenses, maybe kids and such, we'd like to save where we can. It doesn't sound like a bad deal, does it? Hold on a minute. This is all so sudden. Do you really expect me to just say yes right away? Well, for now, we just came to discuss it. If you can manage the money, we'll take care of all the tough stuff. Whitney, this is a win-win for all of us. Please consider it positively. We really hope you'll think it over. To be honest, I thought Timothy and his wife's proposal was reasonable. However, there was something off about Brittany's words. If you provide the money, we'll move in and also provide care. I wondered, is this a give me money and I'll take care of you kind of deal? Of course, resolving my current home's issues sound great, but there's something I just can't get behind. At the time, I honestly didn't think too much about the whole ordeal. Later, Timothy and his wife finished their jobs in the countryside and moved to a rental apartment near their parents' house. Now that they lived closer, Brittany started visiting more frequently. She kept bringing up the topic of the home renovation. I started to feel that it might not be such a bad idea, but Brittany seemed a bit too pushy for my taste. In response to my non-committal stance, she would get annoyed and say things like, Whitney, why won't you approve of this? It's a good deal for you too. And, these days, you won't find many daughter-in-laws willing to live with their in-laws, but I am. I'm even offering to take care of you. You won't find anyone else like me. Her approach felt almost threatening, and it was genuinely unsettling. When I asked her why she was so desperate, she glared at me and snapped. Desperate? Don't you realize this is all for you, Whitney? We're talking about securing your retirement with $120,000. That's not a small amount. I found Brittany's attitude quite off-putting. Timothy, instead of intervening, asked me to listen to her, saying, Mom, we're trying to help. Please, just listen to what Brittany has to say. I was completely taken aback. Thankfully, thanks to my husband, we were financially comfortable, and I always planned to leave some inheritance to Timothy. Everything should work out. If Brittany could genuinely care for us in our old age, perhaps I wouldn't have to think about costs like retirement communities. I began to think that maybe, just maybe, Brittany's plan was a win-win, as she put it. So I agreed, and let Timothy know. Great! We'll start making arrangements. Please, prepare the money. I liquidated some of my assets and transferred the funds to Timothy's account. We then officially contracted a construction company and requested designs. Later, we were told that the blueprint was ready and went to see it with Timothy and Brittany. That day, Brittany seemed in a good mood, far from the person who had yelled at me. I've never really looked at blueprints before, so I couldn't understand most of it, but they showed me the layout. The biggest changes were in the plumbing, with significant alterations to the bathroom, toilet, and kitchen. The first floor mainly consisted of a garage and a Western-style room. I noticed a small room connected to the garage. What's this? It looks too small for a room. Storage or closet, perhaps? Brittany, what's this room for? Oh, that? It's like a spare room or storage, something we thought might be useful in the future. For a child, perhaps? Well, something like that. She responded ambiguously. Her demeanor hinted at ulterior motives. Timothy, who's always been quiet, didn't interject much. I've never seen him be so subservient to anyone. I felt something was off, but I thought this is between Timothy and his wife, so I didn't push it any further. Then the construction finally began. I moved to an apartment complex the contractor had recommended. The complex had 8 units and 1 building, and my place was on the second floor at the corner. Knowing the importance of good neighbor relations, I went to greet everyone. To my surprise, many were younger, and they all greeted me back warmly. My neighbor was a single mom named Serena. Her daughter was Irma, an adorable 5-year-old girl. Serena had lost her husband in an accident and had no relatives to rely on, raising Irma all by herself. However, she was so cheerful, and Irma quickly took a liking to me. Occasionally, I'd share some of my meals with them, gave treats to Irma, or babysat her when Serena was running late. Timothy and his wife, who'd visit once in a while, became quite fond of Irma, saying, "Kids are just so precious. Maybe we should think about having one soon." One day, while enjoying tea with Serena, who had a day off, she seemed hesitant and began, "Don't take this the wrong way, okay? What's up? You sound so serious." While I was cleaning a hotel room the other day, I saw Brittany, and she was with a man I didn't recognize. I almost spat out my tea in surprise. "Are you serious?" "Yeah, I've seen her many times, so I'm sure it was her. She was in quite flashy clothing, and the man was in a suit." "Can you maybe find out more about this?" "I mean, I'm just part-time. Plus, there's the matter of compliance." "Compliance? It means following rules and regulations. Essentially, as a hotel, we have rules to protect our guests' privacy." "I see. Things have become so strict nowadays. But we need to address this Brittany situation." "Right." I pondered for a moment. "First, we need to gather evidence. I have an idea. I'll reach out for help." "I'm sorry, maybe I shouldn't have said anything." No. I should be thanking you. Thank you." I reached out to a private investigator my husband knew and asked him to look into Brittany's activities. Given Timothy's odd behavior, I asked them to investigate that as well. Brittany, being a housewife, had a lot of free time when Timothy was at work. I wondered, what was she doing during those hours? I decided to wait for the results from the detective agency. The renovation of my childhood home is going smoothly. Brittany kept finding reasons to go out, like, "I'm going to check on the renovation's progress," or, "I'll buy some treats for the carpenters." However, when I asked the carpenters, most said that Brittany rarely showed up. She was probably using these excuses to see her lover. In the meantime, the detective agency was making progress. Turns out, Brittany's lover was a high school classmate. Apparently, he was an ex-boyfriend she reconnected with at a reunion last year. They gathered quite a few photos and recordings, so I had plenty of evidence. One day, when Timothy and his wife visited, I set a little trap. "By the way, Timothy, isn't it the 20th anniversary of our middle school graduation? Is there a reunion?" "Really? I thought it was for high school." Suddenly, there was a loud noise, and Brittany was holding her leg in pain. "What happened? Brittany, are you okay?" I got distracted and hit my head on the table leg." "Oh dear, be careful." "So, the 20th anniversary is for high school?" "Yes, I'm organizing it, so I'm sure." "I wish it was for middle school. I would have seen my old flame, Clementina." This time, an even louder noise followed. "Oh my, Brittany, again? What happened now?" "Ouch, I'm sorry, I bumped my head. Maybe I'm just naturally clumsy." "Mom's talking nonsense again. Clementina is now a mother of 2. Why do you keep saying stuff like that?" "Oh, really? Sorry about that." Brittany seems to react noticeably whenever reunion is mentioned. Observing her behavior, it's clear she's having an affair. Finally, the renovation was complete. The exterior had new siding, the roof was now solar paneled, and at a glance, it looked like a brand new house. The heavy front door was replaced with a lighter one. Inside, there was no trace of the old home. The bathroom was now spacious and clean, but the most transformed space was the kitchen. It had an induction cooktop and a dishwasher. Brittany was over the moon. I wondered if one of the rooms on the ground floor would be mine. The scent of new wallpaper felt comforting. Soon, the moving in of stored belongings would begin. I began packing up my apartment in preparation for the move. I said my goodbyes to neighbors Serena and Irma. Irma shed some tears, but she gave a small smile when I told her she could visit with her mom sometime. Then came the following Sunday. Before the move-in, I cleaned each room and considered the arrangement of electronics and furniture. Both Timothy and Brittany made decisions without consulting me, constantly sidelining my opinions. Feeling increasingly ignored, I finally raised my voice. "Where should I put my stuff?" Sure enough, hearing my voice, the two of them approached. "Hey, this isn't Whitney's room, you know." "Wait, what? I thought I was on the first floor." "Where's my room? I'd prefer this one." "What are you talking about? Your room isn't here either. The one we set aside for Whitney is over there." Pointing in the direction, I realized it was that mysterious room. Isn't that just a storage room? Just be grateful we provided a room at all. That's your room, Whitney. It's about 500 square feet, so it's spacious enough. What? There's no way I'm living in a storage closet. I raised my voice in frustration towards Brittany. Timothy, are you seriously going to trap me in there too? Well, yeah, looks that way. Timothy seemed genuinely sorry. So, this was your plan all along, huh? Don't like it? Feel free to leave. If you don't want to live with us, there's nothing we can do, right? Brittany started laughing loudly, while Timothy looked down in silence. Just then, a voice echoed from the front door. Right on time. Hello there, I'm Attorney Galton. Is Whitney around? I checked the time, and he was right on schedule. It's been a while. Your late husband was a great help to me. We're in the middle of moving, but we appreciate your guidance. Let's get straight to business, shall we? It seems everyone's here. Yes, please, come this way. As I led Galton and his assistant into the room, Brittany and Timothy looked completely taken aback. Galton began explaining. First, regarding Timothy's debts, or rather his loans, they were recently settled by a third party. Here are the related documents. Meaning, I had paid off Timothy's debts on his behalf. Wait, what is this? Mom, why did you... I found out about the debt from your failed investment. It was initially covered by Brittany's parents, but I've taken care of it. They were okay with the arrangement. Mom, you knew about this? Now you don't need to hold back anymore. Speak your mind. Mom, I'm sorry. Thank you. We'll talk about this later. That was just a small thing. Now, on to the main topic. Main topic? Timothy looked confused. From our conversation so far, Brittany was already sweating bullets. Whitney, I'm the victim here. My husband lost our money in a bad investment, and my parents had to cover up the debt. She started defending herself, even though I hadn't said anything. So, you've been manipulating Timothy, right? I mean, Timothy did wrong, but you've been up to something even worse, haven't you? What are you talking about? I've done nothing. As she said this, her face turned pale. Galton continued the discussion. So, let's get to the point. Brittany, you're having an affair with an old flame from high school. What? Timothy looked at Brittany, his face full of shock. No, it's not serious. It's just a fling. Timothy is the only one I truly love. I swear. Well, we're just presenting objective facts here. Even if you say you only love your husband, it doesn't matter to the fact. We're just reporting based on our findings. The investigator then pulled out some photos and played a voice recording. Timothy's just my ATM. I'm just using him until I can be with you. Where did they record that? They're really thorough. That was just the beginning of the recording. I tricked that idiot and his parents to renovate their house. First, I'll kick out his mother, have a friend seduce my husband to catch him cheating, then divorce him. That way, I'll get the alimony and the house to pay off my parents' debt. Then I'll marry you. Smart, right? You're still bad news. I heard you had changed. I'm just so in love with you. I want to be with you soon. There was more, but that was enough. The photos showed the two of them entering a hotel, embracing in a car's shadow, and engaging in compromising actions, both inside and outside the hotel. Brittany slouched, looking defeated. It was impossible to argue against such strong evidence. We apologize for the inconvenience. I bowed deeply, impressed by the detective agency's and Galton's work. We're at your service. Timothy, if you wish, we can help with the divorce papers, alimony, and property division. Thank you for your hard work. Brittany, her position completely compromised, left the house, leaving Timothy behind. Timothy was visibly shaken, but it was clear their marriage was over. He requested to start the divorce proceedings right there and then. Later, the law firm reached out, and a meeting took place with Brittany, her parents-in-law, the man she cheated with, and his wife. It turns out Brittany's affair partner was an old boyfriend. They reconnected at a reunion, and the sparks reignited. It was supposed to be a one-night stand, but after his transfer back to town, they continued the affair. He was married and had a child, but this led to their divorce. Our Timothy finalized his divorce and received a significant amount in alimony. Brittany's parents paid for it, making their daughter and her boyfriend repay them as a debt. Both Brittany and her boyfriend were disowned by their families. The two now work and live at a remote hotel, barely getting by, repaying their debt. Sometime later, our next-door neighbor Serena visited with Irma. Irma's kindergarten was nearby, and they were on their way home. Irma was very fond of Timothy, so I told them to visit any time. After several visits, Timothy and Serena grew close and eventually married. Relationships can be unexpected. Now in this house, Timothy has a new wife and an instant elementary-aged granddaughter. Irma calls Timothy Dad, and me Grandma. We cherish her as if she's our real granddaughter. Timothy and his wife live harmoniously. I cherish these happy moments.